and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you.
Hi, I'm Helen Leathers, and with me today is not my usual podcast co-host and business partner, Tom Dillon. He's not here. Instead, I have the lovely Dr. Jo Hacking, who is joining me today to talk a little bit about her coaching journey. So welcome, Jo.
Hello.
Hi, it's nice to see you again.
Lovely to see you too.
I'm going to do a quick introduction for our listeners so they know what you're all about. I know you have a background as a consultant in Paediatric Emergency Medicine, but Jo experienced burnout in 2017, 2018, and that's when she first discovered the power of coaching. So you trained with us, I think, in 2022, Jo? And
that's right.
Yes, and you've become a transformational coach and a retreat leader, and also, I love this, a part-time wellbeing project officer with the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust. So that sounds delightful. And I know in your bio you say you have 3 children and lots of other animals. So I like that they're all kind of put into the bundle of animals.
We're all very much connected.
Fabulous, yes. I'd love to know more about your animals, but we're not here to talk about that. So first of all, welcome, as I say, to the podcast. And I'd just like to find out really what's been happening for you since you qualified as a transformational coach.
It's very much a journey and a story, which is one of the things I love about coaching as a whole is that often the themes are around stories or journeys. Mm-hmm. And so Your Coaching Journey as a title was very much one of the things that attracted me to do this particular diploma. When I did the diploma course, I had already run a couple of retreats and was already doing what I now know was coaching, but it was less formalized. It was very much a kind of meet with people online, go through some stuff, do the retreat, finish. And then since then, I am now actually running the business with some coaching just as a coach, which I do mostly online, but some of it I do face-to-face. At least, I would say, a third of my coaching clients are people who have also been on a retreat or are planning to go on a retreat. So that's largely where it's taken me, I suppose, is that it's formalized how I do it. And it's given me lots of tools to use to make it more of an adventure when I go into a coaching space. I've got lots of options, which I didn't feel like I had before because I just didn't have that experience.
Wow. And what's your focus when you work with your coaching clients?
As with all coaching, quite often it's not what they originally come with. Yes. I think because so many of them come to me via retreat or workshop or because they've by word of mouth from people who've been on the retreats. The focus is often, it's largely doctors. I've coached some people, I've run some workshops for people like head teachers and other professions who experience that kind of identity, vocational identity issue, and often burnout related, but not necessarily actual burnout, but often concerns about that emotional exhaustion that comes with just focusing on your career. And so I think a lot of people come with that sort of, I don't quite know what I need-ishness. If that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely, it makes sense to me.
And I think because my approach, as you mentioned, I was a paediatric consultant. I had my own burnout journey. I had some fantastic career coaching, which was quite a structured career coaching thing when I had left my consultant job and I was trying to work out where I wanted to go and things like that. And I found it so powerful. And a lot of the aspects of it that I found powerful were the bits around my identity and my purpose and the things that I'd lost along the way that were not medicine, that were not doctor. And so I suppose I come at it from that perspective, but really sometimes I'll end up coaching about socks on the floor in the house and things that annoy you, and other times I'll end up coaching about, joy, finding joy, or getting out into nature, experiencing other things that you've missed since childhood, everything. So I suppose the answer is there isn't a specific thing, but it's along that theme of identity and sort of tapping into joy would be one of the things that I find so important, that if I can bring that in at all, then I would.
I totally understand where you're coming from. And it's really interesting, isn't it, that certainly, I hope it's changing, but certainly a few years ago, many people thought of as coaching as, I've got a goal, I need to work out the steps, and then I need to be held accountable to achieve the goal. And I am very much more about that style of coaching of who am I as a person, who am I, and how does everything else fit in beneath that and align with that. And it sounds like that's very similar to where you're coming from.
Yes, and I think it's interesting. So on the diploma, I remember doing the sort of sections about ways of thinking and stress-related or fear-based thinking, and or system 1 versus system 2 thinking in terms of the sort of biases that we have. And actually, a lot of people come wanting to solve one thing, but when you allow them to actually go into a space where they're just thinking about their essence or what it is that makes them tick, that you almost see the light bulb come above their head. That's why, and I think that's why, for me, the retreat, blending a retreat space or being able to offer that as a space for people to do some of the light bulb stuff when there's other people around, but when they're not, they haven't got the distractions of life. And I coach quite a lot. I coach a lot of people online where you'll see them however often it is, and they'll have had a chance to go away and think. But it's it's a spread out process, and there's the journey outside the coaching space. On the retreat, even just the 1-day retreats, but particularly a 4-day retreat, that there's that. When you talk about the embodiment or the sort of who am I, we start, each retreat is run as a kind of journey or a story where we start on the first day thinking about what you come with, what are your problems, what are the things you want to solve. And then we just kind of do we do activities which are much more to do with just relaxing, being calm, perhaps connecting with nature. We go for walks, we'll talk as a group in a circle. And it's amazing how actually effectively what happens on a more formal grow model coaching session happens almost naturally over that time and space. But you allow for people to process quietly, but with people there who aren't their normal, mummy, I need this, or you need to get that done today kind of environment.
Yes.
I don't know whether I answered your question there. I kind of went off on a tangent somewhere.
That's fine. It sounds like, yes, it sounds like your answer was yes. But yes. I love that, they're in that environment away from the everyday, and also with supportive people who are going to allow them to be and to become and explore in a really safe space.
Safe, I think, is very, very, yes, safe headspace and safe environment, and well-fed, warm, nice place, no scary things around. That actually very fundamentally we kind of want to cater for those sorts of things. But yeah, I think sitting in a group of all doctors, and I think that's where the identity bit comes in on when you're coaching a doctor and it's one-to-one, their assumptions about what another person might do in the same space is quite different to when you do it in a circle, and everyone's doctors, so they kind of get that bit. And if you shift the focus onto all the other stuff and finding other things, it's amazing how then there's that, oh, you do that too? No. and or people saying, really? You think that? No, I find it that way. And you have these conversations, which is not, you're doing it this way and that's wrong. It's oh, is it? There's a lot more curiosity because you're not there being judged. You're not there. It's not about your career. It's not about any one specific thing. And I find that when people come to coaching, particularly if it's organised by either their employer, they come with quite a, I'm coming to coaching because I've been told that my communication is such, or I've come to coaching because I've been told I need coaching for this. It takes it's a much more difficult process to detach, or at least sometimes you just have to coach in that space and leave it in that bandwidth and not go anywhere else, which I find is very successful and is great, but that's not what really makes my heart sing, I suppose. And when we talk about things that are authentically what you love doing or what you feels important, I suppose that's where coaching via a retreat or with that as part of it allows for that kind of stepping awayness without too much clear focus, which in a way is rather lovely, but safely.
Yes, and I've experienced retreat environments in different ways with different focuses, whether it's yoga retreat. Actually, at the time of recording, I am in a few weeks going on a writing retreat, so I'm very excited looking forward to that. And it's interesting what you said about being well fed, because I'm really looking forward to someone else feeding me, and I don't have to think about, is there milk in the fridge or whatever. I can just focus on what I'm there for, and I actually did some of my coach training in a retreat environment. So some people might say I was just on a course, but it felt very much like a retreat environment because of the way that it was put together and structured and that safe space, etc. So I totally get all the power of that. And it sounds like you're doing really great work. What would you say is your current favourite coaching question?
That is such a difficult one. It does depend on what setting. I think probably my overall favourite question, when it is appropriate, is a magic wand question. And that's actually in any setting, it doesn't matter. Just because of we do a lot of, I love stories and journey, and the fact that it's should be more about, or for me, the kind of experience of being in order to get to a place rather than just the destination, because that's how I certainly found my life get very narrow. And so I think being able to just say, so if I removed all those things which are holding you in and caging you with a magic wand, how would this look? Or how, so I think magic wand question is my favorite question because of its freedom, the lack of walls, that kind of imaginary, creative story. You can write your next chapter with a magic wand and do what you want. It's lovely. I love it. I think it's a hugely empowering question. The one on the retreats we use most is probably, who are you if you are not your current job? But that requires a safe space because it can be quite challenging. And I think that it can be, unless you've already built up a sense of safety or trust, if you challenge someone with that too much, it can slightly just swipe their feet out from under them if who they are is their job at that precise moment. Or not all if they are, because nobody is that. But if that's how they feel, because I was asked that question actually in a discovery call, and it absolutely, which is why I know it's a hugely powerful question, but it completely sideswiped me and left me completely speechless for quite a long time. So I would only ever use that one with great caution in terms of when I would use it.
Oh yeah, big question, but I can see why it would work in that retreat environment.
I mean, for me, I think it was a life-changing question, and I think it ended up being incredibly positive. But I know that, on retreat, I think we tell stories in the circle. We have a storyteller, and when we collaborate, I've got some lovely people who I work with who bring some amazing skills with them, and storytelling is one of them. And everybody gets a chance to create their own little mini story, which is just a 5-minute sort of soundbite story, which is supported, and then you can share it with the group. But at the beginning of the retreat, we all come up with our keywords of the sort of things that are our challenges, and identity is always on it, and the aspect of non-doctor identity. And I tend to tell my story at the beginning as a way of framing that, of saying, that is why I burnt out, is I lost touch with the me that was not a doctor, and that was what really caused my, that sort of underpinned my burnout journey. And so I think, that is the big power question that I have in my arsenal that I always fall back on. But my favourite one's still Magic Wand.
And I was going to ask you about your favourite tool, but I wonder if they're one and the same.
We always do a vision board on retreat, and that's really a fabulous tool because it gets people looking at things in a different way. But yeah, I've got so many favourite tools, and I do change, but most of it is asking good questions, I think.
I absolutely agree, and I know that I was very much trained in tools when I learnt to coach, and as my coaching experience grew, the tools kind of get sidelined because the power of the fundamentals of coaching, and they're there if you need them. But I think you can do so much simply with the basics, asking good questions, holding that space, creating a safe space, and playing back. And then, the tools as and when they crop up.
Walking is a big tool if I get to do face-to-face stuff, because I find conversations when walking are really fruitful.
I actually interviewed Anna-Marie Watson about the approach of coaching outdoors and coaching out in nature, and it was lovely to hear her thoughts on that. And so it's nice to know that you're embracing that outside space as well.
Yes, and funnily enough, I did nothing to do with the retreats, but one of my more recent clients was a non-medical professional, and we coached in a garden. And we it was over the summer, and if it rained, we went into the greenhouse. But actually, we did it all outside, and it was so delightful. It really was, because of the bird song, and it was a quiet place. We managed to find a quiet place, and that was probably my favourite coaching experience of recent times.
Fabulous. I'm aware of time, and time is flying by. I feel like I could talk to you for ages. There's one more question about the retreats I want to ask you, which is, how long do you hold these retreats for, out of interest? Is it one day or more?
So I have three different models, I suppose. The doctor's retreats are 4 days, and I normally run them Monday to Thursday. So that's the doctor's retreat. The one-day retreats are generally open to wider groups, not just doctors, so healthcare professionals, but also other professionals. And we do a full day with Katia Miles, who's also a Your Coaching Journey coach, and I incorporate mindfulness and nature connection into them all because it brings people into a different space. And then I do a slightly shorter one, which is just 4 hours, which is more of a wellbeing focus day, where we just start off with a coaching circle and then do a little bit some mindfulness and then finish. So that's the sort of frames of the different types of retreat.
Lovely. And when you're not running retreats and doing your one-to-one coaching, what are your hobbies and interests outside of that world? Who are you? Who
am I? I spend as much time as I can out in nature. I will walk the dogs every day, or if someone else is walking the dogs, I'll go out. I paint, so I do watercolor particularly, but I draw and paint, and I love music and things like that. And I'm a mum, actually, probably is the thing that takes the most of my time. My sort of purpose and focus in life at the moment is primarily to be a mum, which I am enjoying very much. So that's, and there's the Wildlife Trust stuff as well, which is very much wellbeing based, outdoor projects, which are fantastic, and nature connection and trying to improve the environment and things like that, which is part of my value set, really.
Yeah, it really sounds like you're living that ambition of having a full, well-rounded version of Dr. Joe, and with all those elements that feed into well-being and different parts of your identity being fulfilled. So it sounds like you've had this journey and you've got to a really well-balanced place.
I think so, and I think the biggest thing is to realise that it is a journey, and that when things aren't right, then allow them things, accepting what is good and accepting what needs to shift is really a precious and powerful tool in its own right. So yeah, I'm still evolving, let's say, but I think I'm loving I've come back round to the fact that a big part of me is still a doctor. Mm-hmm. And that those skills are really important, and I love using them, just because I'm not doing clinical medicine anymore. For a while I was not a doctor anymore, but I kind of lost that need to be different, and embraced the fact that is a part of me, and I love that part.
Wonderful. Well, we will put your contact details in the show notes, so if anyone wants to get in touch with you, find out more about your retreats, they can do just that.
Thank you.
Before we sign off, what would you say to someone looking at our courses right now?
I would say that it is exceptional in two ways. For your coaching experience, it broadens your capabilities and your knowledge and your tools, but actually on a personal level, as a personal journey. The course, because it's a group of like-minded people, we're still in touch. We've got a lovely little group of people who we did the course with. So it's worth it on so many levels that even if you didn't need to get a diploma in coaching, I think it would have been worth it. So that would be my thoughts about the course. It was valuable, immensely valuable. I can't think of the right word now. Really good word.
I think immensely valuable sounds great. And that's exactly what we aim for, is that if someone leaves and says, I'm never going to be a coach on its own, I'm going to incorporate it, or, I'm just going to use the coaching skills in the things that I already do, that it's valuable in and of itself for you as part of your journey as a doctor or a medical professional.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, and I think the one thing I would add to that is that because I've now work amongst lots of people who've done different coaching, types of coaching, and more corporate coaching and things like that, is that the finishing of this course didn't feel like it was doing the course, not doing the course. There was this graduate, it very much fits in with other aspects of things, because it was so inclusive of other ways of doing. Lovely. Rather than a very single, this is how you coach, yes, and I've got people who are coaches coming along on some of my day retreats to learn skills outside coaching that can be combined into coaching. So it's great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time today, and it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you and to find out how practically you're using those skills and successfully running your retreat and coaching business and helping so many doctors. And we just love that there's this ripple effect from the courses out into the wider medical community, and you're part of that. So thank you so much. It's an absolute joy to hear about that. Next time on the podcast, we will be discussing a coaching challenge, so tune in to find out more about that. And for now, thank you so much, Joe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.